Hey there foodies, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel where I make delicious homemade recipes. So today we're going to be making some Guyanese cheese rolls, and to start I have all of my ingredients here for my dough. So here we have 4 cups of all-purpose flour. I have 1 cup of ice cold water, some additional flour for dusting, half a teaspoon of salt. I have half a cup of vegetable shortening, and I have 3/4 cup of butter. Make sure that your shortening and your butter is as cold as it possibly can be because it works very well when you're making a pastry crust. So to begin, I'll just add my salt to my flour. Give it a good mix. Okay, so that is well mixed in. I'm gonna add my shortening first, some of it, and I'm gonna work this into my flour really well. Okay, so we have our shortening all worked in here. I'll go in with my butter. Okay, so our butter and our shortening is all worked into the flour. So what I'm gonna do, I'll just make a hole in the center and I'll gradually add the cold water and pull this together. Depending on the brand of flour or the type that you're using, that will determine if you need a little less water or if you need a little more, because pastry doughs don't require a lot of water because of all the butter and shortening that is in there. So just going with it slowly and add as needed. So I'm gonna bring this together and then I'll show you how I prep it for storing in the refrigerator. So see you in a few minutes. Okay, so my dough pulled together really nicely. I'm just gonna sprinkle a little bit of flour and turn it over here. And what I just wanna do is just press it a little bit to form a nice ball. Okay, that is good enough. I'll wash my hands up and then we'll wrap this up and put it in the refrigerator. Okay, so here I just have some plastic wrap. I'll wrap the dough up really tightly. And I'm gonna store this in my fridge for about 30 minutes. And the reason for that is because anytime you're making a pastry crust and you put it in the fridge, the fats and everything inside relaxes with the flour, so that now when it's time to roll it out, it's much easier and it rolls much faster. Because if you were to roll this out right now, the chances are you're gonna have a really hard time to roll it out. You can, but it's just gonna be a little harder. So we put it in the fridge to let it rest and then make it easier when we're gonna actually work with it. So in the meantime that this is resting in the fridge, let's make our cheese filling. Okay, so I just put my dough in the fridge, and in the meantime that I'm waiting for it to rest, I'm gonna do my cheese filling. So here I have an 8-ounce block of white sharp cheddar cheese. I have another 8-ounce block of mild sharp cheddar cheese. I like to use these two because this taste is the closest to the Guyana yellow cheese in my opinion, and then the mild sharp cheddar gives it that nice like mild yellow color. So I find that these two for me works best, but you can also use any type of cheese that you like within the cheese roll. So to season my cheese spread or my cheese filling, I have 1 tablespoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder. I chopped up 1 large wiri pepper as finely as I possibly can. I have 1 tablespoon of mustard, and to soften my cheese filling, because I want to do like a spread, not more say just the grated cheese and sprinkle, I'm just gonna add 2 tablespoons of softened butter. So to grate my cheese, I'm gonna use the food processor, and to also combine all of the ingredients, I'm gonna use a food processor. If there's anything that you guys don't wanna put in your filling, if you're gonna try this recipe, feel free to omit it, and you can put anything that you like as well. Okay, so here I have my processor. You can absolutely grate your cheese by hand. There's nothing wrong with that. The food processor does it much faster. That's why I like to use it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grate this up, and then we'll come back and start to add all the rest of the ingredients. Okay, so my cheese is finished grating. Like, I literally grate the block of cheese in about 5 seconds. So if your food processor comes with this attachment, do make use of it. You're gonna save yourself an arm workout to just grating cheese. So I emptied out my cheese and I put my blade at the bottom. So now I put back in half of it. And what I'm gonna do, I'll add my butter. And I'm gonna start to pulse it a couple times. So now I'll add the rest of my cheese. So all my cheese is in. I'll go in with my mustard and we'll pulse this again. So you want to also go in and just scrape around to make sure that none of the cheese is like stuck in the corner. Whilst I have it on low, I'll just add in all my other ingredients and have it mix up. Okay, so I'll just give it one final scrape down in case anything is stuck to the sides. It's okay if you have any of the bits of grated cheese. It'll melt out in the oven when you're gonna bake it, but just make sure that most of the cheese is creamed out because you're looking to spread this on your pastry dough, right? So for this last processing, I'll put it on high for about 10 seconds and we should be finished then. Okay, so our cheese spread is finished. I'll pour it out in a bowl and I'll show you what the consistency should be like. So see you in a few minutes. Okay, so here I have my spread. It was done really well in the food processor. I like to do it in there because if you have to grate the cheese and then cream it by hand with the butter ingredients, it's not gonna take you just 5 minutes like it just did for me in the food processor. So if you don't have one of those, I'd suggest you definitely invest in it. It makes life in the kitchen a whole lot easier. So here's the consistency that you're looking for. Like, I can compare this to when you're making cheese sandwiches. That's the type of consistency that you'd want to have, because I can take this right now and I can spread it on a slice of bread and it'll spread perfectly. So my dough has finished resting for the 30 minutes. I'm just gonna take it out, flour my surface, just lightly, spread it around, because we're gonna roll this out over the entire mat, right? So just gonna press it out a little bit. Try your best to see if you can roll this out somewhat of a rectangle shape, because the cheese rolls are gonna be rectangular, right? So it kind of helps. So I'm gonna roll this out and then I'll come back and show you how I prepare the cheese rolls. Okay, so I have my dough all rolled out here. What I'm gonna do, I'll trim it down to a rectangle shape. Okay, so here I have my rectangle for my cheese rolls. I'm just gonna do 3 cuts straight up and then 3 across. Okay, so I've started spreading out the cheese on the pastry crust. You don't want to overfill this too much because what's going to happen, it's cheese, right? And when heat gets on it, it's going to expand. So fill it enough, but not too much. Okay, so I have all of my cheese spread out on each one of the rectangles. What I'm gonna do, I have here just some egg whites. I'm just gonna baste the edges so that when I roll it over, it can act as a glue. Okay, so I've basted all of my edges. What I'm gonna do, I'll just take from one end and roll it over once, and then roll it back over again. And on the other side, I'm just gonna go in. So you see where this opening is, you wanna make sure that's closed. So I'm just gonna go in and pinch it a little bit, and the egg white that we added is gonna act as the glue to hold that together. So on the ends here, I'll take my fork and I'll press it down. I'll repeat that on the other side as well. It's okay if some of the cheese filling spills out. It's gonna happen, so. And to neaten up the edges, I'll just trim it off, just to make it look a little neat. And to create some ventilation for the cheese inside when it's gonna bake, I'm gonna poke some holes. So here you have it, our first rolled cheese roll. I'm gonna continue to roll the rest up, and then I'll show you what I do before putting them in the oven. Okay, so I finished putting the cheese rolls together, and what I'm gonna do now, I'll just baste it with the same egg white that we were using earlier. This gives a nice golden crust on top, so make sure that you do this step. If you don't want to put the eggs on top, you can use some butter and milk as well if you're trying to keep it more on the vegetarian side. And remember to make sure to seal these edges really well, because the cheese, no matter how perfectly you seal it, the cheese will somehow still seep out on one or two of them. So just try your best to seal it off, and most of them should stay closed up in the oven when you're gonna bake them. So I have my oven preheated at 350 degrees. I'm gonna bake these for 25 to 30 minutes, or until it achieves that golden brown crust at the top. And then I'll come back and show you what they look like after they're done baking. So see you then. Here we have our delicious cheese roll. They baked up really nice and golden in the oven, and the crust is absolutely crispy. So I'm gonna break into one and show you guys. It's still a little hot. Look at all the cheese and goodness inside there. So I hope you guys enjoyed my recipe today. Do give it a try. Remember, all of my ingredients and the measurements for them are always listed in the description box below. If you're enjoying my content, do subscribe to my channel for more recipes for your enjoyment. I hope you guys give this recipe a try. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next delicious recipe.